All right, guys. So we're in the shop today, and going to be making sort of an introduction video to this '63 F100, and kind of tell you a little bit about the truck, and sort of talk about trying to get a YouTube channel started and trying to make some real content. My best friend and I, Spencer, who will be, I guess, my co-host, you can call him. We're going to try to get a channel together, try to get some real content out, and we have a lot of cool ideas, so we're going to try to get it going. I've attempted this myself prior, not really able to keep things going, able to keep content rolling due to money and financials, but I don't care about that because time has gone by and our attitudes and moods have changed. So this is a little bit of an introduction to the truck, my history with the truck, and I guess a little bit of introduction to a hopeful attempt for a YouTube channel. So we're standing in my shop, in my grandfather's shop. I guess it's more his shop than it is mine, but we're standing in the shop. And I've been working on the '63 F100 for the past, I guess, 7 years. But the past weekend, I got a whole bunch done. So a little bit of history on the truck. I will put some photos in the video as I'm going through and talking about it. And kind of explain the history. So originally, I bought the truck, drug it out of a backyard in Seymour, Indiana. Old guy had it. Apparently his brother or somebody had owned it. The old farm truck story, you know, it's sat around. It hasn't been registered since 1997. And I bought it for $300, drug it home on the back of my best friend's brother's wrecker. We got it running. Had a tank full of about 20-year-old fuel. And we got it running off of that. And it was like Gatorade orange. It was disgusting. We ended up spilling about 15 gallons of it in my grandma's driveway. But that was about a 17-year-old Brian and about an 18 to 19-year-old Spencer. So we took the valve cover off, went through and set all the valve lash, put a couple push rods back in that weren't where they were supposed to be, and I drove the thing. I drove it around for probably about a year, I guess, total. Had mixed match wheels and tires on it. It was rough, and I drove it to high school. Here's a photo of I think one of the first couple times I drove it to school. So it was pretty rough and it's pretty scary. It had a 223 inline straight six and a 3-speed on the column originally. And when I got it, it had a shifter about that long that poked through the floor. So I don't know how you're actually supposed to drive it. I guess it was a farm truck if they threw it in first and left it. But so the truck had a little bit of history. Unfortunately, I cracked that 223 one day. Leaving it. I left over the weekend and it got extremely cold and the poor old thing broke because I was running water in it because the radiator leaked so bad. It cracked, and then my best friend Spencer and I, we dug a 351 Cleveland out of the weeds, pretty much out of the ground. Paid $100 for it. My grandpa bought it for me as a gift because I had no power plant and I had no money at 17 to put a nice engine back in this truck. And I kind of grew up, I'm a Ford fanatic. Both of us are, Spencer and I. I grew up with the Cleveland, the 351 Cleveland being the pinnacle under the 428 Camry. And so that was the engine we found. That was the engine we bought. And I put the engine in the truck. I'll put a couple videos in the sequence of that. Didn't know anything about it. Didn't know if it ran. And based on digging it out of the ground pretty much, we had no real hopes of it running. Those clips are pretty rough. They're pretty old. So the quality is not very good. I'm pretty sure I recorded them on a Galaxy 1. So they're pretty bad. But either way, got the motor slammed in the truck, had an exhaust on it, charged, had a new alternator on it, all that junk. Had a 3-speed behind it, and it clattered so bad. It ran great, fired right up. Ran great, but it clattered so bad. But life got in the way. The truck set. I ripped the Cleveland out, had it machined 60 over because at the time that was what the machine shop owner, that was the option he gave me other than finding a new block. And again, a poor 18-year-old kid, that was the option I went with. So the truck sets, long story short, the truck sets for about 6 years on blocks with no doghouse. The doghouse got backed into and all bent up and broke. And so yeah, the truck sets for about 6 years, and I order a brand new 300 inline six for another truck I'll have on the channel, my short bed that I've named Bruce after my great-grandpa, who was the original purchaser of the truck. And I bought a brand new crate 300 inline 6 to throw on the truck, and I didn't want to put a 300 back in it. I wanted to put that Cleveland back in it, or in the truck. I wanted to get the Cleveland done. And then I seen this thing sitting in the corner of my yard, and I thought, what am I going to do with this brand new 300 inline that I've bought? I don't have a home for it. I don't know what to do with it. Voila. That became its new home. And so I drug the truck out after sitting under a tarp for 6 to 7 years. Not an inch of wiring is any good. I had no doghouse. It was a 63 wrong bed. So it had a 57 through 60 bed on it, which annoyed me from the day I purchased the truck. I tried to love it, but I just never could. So that's an introduction to the truck. The truck has set majority of the time I had it, and I never fell out of love with it, though. Life got in the way, work, house, all that stuff. And many projects have come and gone, but this one has always stayed. So I've got a couple shots of working on it over the weekend. I'll go through and I'll show you all that. And the truck is almost ready for the engine to go in. We're going to try and get a good list of things that need to be bought. Brakes, coolant, clutch, and that's it. That's all that is really stopping us from doing a roadkill style test drive. And that's kind of what this channel is going to be about. We grew up, those are our heroes, Freiberger and Finnegan, and who wouldn't want to live that life? You know, we have enough things going on in our life right now that we think that we can make some cool content. My buddy Spencer has got some really cool trucks, a boosted F350 on a stock 292 Y block. That's a cool one. I'll put a short clip of that in this video so you can kind of see what that's all about. Let me tell you about the power plant for this a little bit. So the power plant for this is I believe the company was called Performance Products 300 Inline 6. And it was a pretty basic 300. Basically the only engine I could get my hands on when it come to a remand. I didn't want to go with Jasper. I've heard, don't hold me to this, but I've heard their quality's dropped a little bit. And I'd heard good things about this Performance Products. So I went with them. I bought a crate motor. It was about $2,300, and I got a $300 core back once I had turned the motor in. So I've got a 300 inline. I'll post the pictures throughout of building the turbo setup for it because we're going to run an H1C turbo off of a 12-valve Cummins. So that's where we are with that. That's where the truck is. It's got an M50D 5-speed transmission, the lighter duty transmission out of the half-ton pickup trucks, and I think maybe some of the F250s, but it's got an overdrive. And the idea of this is to get it out of the weeds and get it back on the road. So, yeah, that's it. That's what we're going to do. Our channel, we hope, is fun. We're going to try to keep content coming. Probably only going to be one good video a month for a little while. So bear with us on that, and I'll introduce him later on. This is sort of an introduction video up to the truck, to what we're going to try to do, and trying to get used to having a camera up. It's hard when there are other people around, things like that. You get nervous and you feel silly sometimes. We want to get over that. We've got a couple cool projects in mind. We got maybe an idea for his 1-ton. We've got a Jeep that needs a cage welded on it. We've got this. I've got a short bed. He's got a bunch of other trucks, short beds, and 28 Chevy Coupes and all kinds of things. So we're going to try to keep a list of shenanigans going, and cheaply. We're Ford guys, but we're going to try to maybe play around with some other different things. I know big block Chevys make a hell of a lot of power when you throw a boost at them. I know that the LS is a great engine. I've never been a big fan of the GM vehicles or the GM engines, but you got to diversify, and I get that. So, yeah, so here's a little bit about this truck. Here's a little bit about what I've been working on. And, yeah, thank you. Okay, I've got the 63 back in the shop, and I was out here all night getting the rear axle moved back. Actually, probably the only guy in history to increase his wheelbase on purpose, but had to move the axle back about 6 inches so that the correct bed would fit the truck. Got a little support welded in there because I had to cut the center cross member out, and I'll have to fab up a new one. But I'm going to have to probably notch the frame a little bit, because by the time I put the bed on, the frame will be sitting pretty much on the axle. So that is that. Got that all done last night. All bolted back in. I'll probably go back through with some grade 8 or some stainless hardware. But yeah, worked out. Worked out good. So I'm not quite done with that, but I wanted to work on something in the front end. So unfortunately, the old 63 is a pile. I can admit that. It is a rusted out pile. And it's beat up. It's bent up. And there's no front cap mounts. And I'm hoping with the old 300 back there, as crazy as it may sound, to at least make 400 foot-pounds of torque. I'm hoping. It's got good internals in it. It's got some good hyper-eutectic dished pistons. It's got some good rods. It's got some good rings. It's been gapped for boost. So we're going to try to make, 12. We'll push it up to 12, maybe 14 pounds of boost eventually. But this poor thing it's dangerous. There's rust everywhere, and the front of the cab mounts completely gone. And so I need to, for one, so the body's not bouncing around and bending things and getting my steering in a bind and all that stuff, I need to jack the front of the cab up, or raise it up with the lift, and I need to make some mounts. And I'm probably going to run from here down to the frame and either bolt them on or whatever. I don't need this clutch bracket anymore, so probably unbolt it and try to utilize those spots. But I will, yeah, I'll get some brackets made, and I'll show you how they go. I'm thinking some square tubing from somewhere up here, and I will just weld it straight to the cab, come down, and bolt it to the frame. I don't want to weld anything to the frame, because I'll either eventually re-sheet metal all the rust in the cab, or I will just find a cab. I don't know exactly. It's one of those situations where the truck, if I put a new cab on it and I replace all the sheet metal up front, and I've already replaced the bed, I don't have anything left of the truck that is original to me. So, and the stupid old rusted out pile of junk is sentimental. So we're going to do the best temporary permanent fix we can. So, this is what I'm thinking for cab mounts. Don't judge. Thinking, gonna come under here, like so, and we're gonna weld them directly to the cab. I will mark it, cut it off. Man, I'm having to move it back here a little ways somewhere. Gonna mark it, cut it off flush so that it sets on top of the frame. And then I'm gonna utilize that bolt hole right there. Or I'll bring it up here a bit and I'll utilize this bolt hole. Not quite sure yet, but should hold the front of the cab up and keep it from falling off. Because I really want to take this thing to an event. I want to go somewhere and get kicked out for not passing spec and tech inspections. That's the word I meant. And then, maybe slip them a 20 and then let me in. So, yeah, let's get making another one of these. Okay, so scratch everything I just said. The tubing that I cut. Because this is what happens when you don't pay attention to the project you're working on. And the idea of making this symmetrical, meaning one side matching the other, I failed to remember that there is a boot right there, directly above the frame rail. So I have to come above and do it that way. So that changes things. That makes me have to do something different. So what do I do? That could still work for that side, but I want the two sides to be symmetrical. So what do I do? This is where I may get creative, because I have a sandrail cage sitting right there. And as much as it would probably be silly to cut that up, it is a rusty old cage, but got a lot of good tubing in it. So do I just go ahead and make bars to run from the top over and down, and then a stiffening bar, and then I can run shocks off of that if I wanted to. So I don't know yet. I'm not exactly sure what I want to do, but that changes things. So regrouping, got to go above that. Know that now. Okay, so making good progress. I got what I believe is going to be a good idea and safe. So, taking our piece of roll bar tubing, got it cut at an angle to fit up against the firewall and come down and mate in between these two holes. So I can then make a bracket that utilizes these two, which are the same as the other two on the other side, because that was the pivot for the clutch. So I can use that bracket to make a template for this bracket and the one over there. So that is all done. This will have a hydraulic clutch, so I'm not worried about any of that junk over there. And all I need to do now is make sure this fits the other side. But don't ignore all that. That's just okay. So got a little metal bracket in the way, but yeah, that'll work. That will work just fine. It might not be the greatest thing, but it's going to keep the cab from from slouching and getting my steering in a bind and changing the geometry of things. And I think it's going to work well for a while. Maybe I can even get rid of the 2x4s that are holding it up. And the yeah. But yeah, so there we go. I think I'll get another one of those whipped out. I'd considered using some of that tubing to come off of here and over and down, but that's overkill for what we need right now. So yeah, get another one of these made and get them welded in. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this. This is, I think Freiberger and Finnegan would be proud of this one. So as I was saying, cab mounts rusted out, gone. So this is what I did to fix it. Yeah, welded to the cab. Oh yeah. Straight down. Perfect. Perfect. She's not going anywhere. So, I call that a win. Okay, so I got the other cab mount on, and I think they're going to work pretty good. I had a huge scare. I was welding this cab mount on, and I didn't think there was any of the firewall insulation left, but there was. So I had to ruin a couple cans of beer, shake them up, give them the fire extinguisher treatment, which, by the way, works. I know it's a huge party foul, but if you ever have a fire that you cannot get out, shake up a couple cans of beer, give them a good squeeze and bust them open, and it is total fire extinguisher action. But it is done. I'm going to get it painted, and then I'm going to decide where to weld on the new braces that I want to put on. And I have a pretty good idea, so we'll go from there. Yeah. Come down, bolted, same spot. So that ought to work. So, what a journey this has been, getting this mount made. But it's going well. I actually really like it. I'm really happy with it. There were some spots I just could not get to weld. And there was a little bit of a few gaps that I had to fill in a little more. Cutting tubing to match different angles when you're limited on tubing, definitely a little tough. But let me show you what we're working with. Pretty happy with that. Comes in, welds into the floorboard here, up to the firewall, and then welds together. I was able to weld about 90% of this one, and then the bottom, probably an inch from there on, and I just wasn't able to weld up. I didn't want it to be a giant booger. It's already got a little bit more weld on the bottom than I really wanted, but I'm super happy with that. Back in. I'm not going to interfere with the tire or suspension or anything like that. Alright, so to recap, into the weekend work, I got a list of things I need to grab, some hardware for next weekend, and so let's go over everything that we got done. Got the rear axle moved back 6 inches, all re-drilled, cleaned the frame up where we were, painted the back sides of the brackets. all bolted in. I'm good with grade 5 hardware for now. It's not going to be twisting the frame anytime soon, so I'm not worried about that. I got to get the plates to plate the inside of the frame, and I have a couple already, so I just need to grab them and bring them over and get the rest of this crossmember cut out, cleaned out. Had a small fire. I mentioned that, I think, already. Yeah, I had to rip all the insulation out from under the dash, but that's okay. And I got the cab mounts made, which I'm super stoked about because I think they turned out really well, and they're going to hold this old rusty cab on for as long as we need. So, got both of them done. Pretty happy with that. But yeah, hopefully next weekend make a little more progress. Still got some things on the list to get done. I really want to, I have to finish mounting the front end. Let me show you that actually. So, yeah, maybe not everyone cup of tea on the mounting style here, but I bought some aftermarket purchase, and there's some Cruddy tack welds on there, and then some guide plates on the bottom. And I've actually cleaned it all up and beaded all the way around the bottom, but I still need to make some braces from top to bottom and weld it all in, clean it all up, and just completely weld it and encase it. And then I need to mill these out and get these bolts up and down straighter, and obviously longer bolts so that the nylock actually works. So that's just kind of all a rough start, but I do have the axle level so that I don't have any, it's not turning all crazy or anything. It's straight up and down. And the perches are welded. There's still some welding to be done to them, some better hardware to be put on. And get rid of this crazy bolt angle. See what I'm talking about? The bolts come upward. So get that plate milled out, get the bolts coming up straight, and then get that done. So I'm not gonna mark front end off the list yet because it's not done. But I need to get hood hinges bolted on, that as well. So I've got hood hinges I retrieved from the scrapyard, and I sent them off to be sandblasted, got them all cleaned up, got them working free and good, and then painted them. The only thing stopping me from putting those on is you got 2 bolts here, you've got 1 bolt here, and then this one broke off on both sides. So I'm going to try to weld to it and get it to come out, and then if I can't, I'll just have to grind it flush and drill it out. So didn't get to that this weekend. I obviously got to moving the rear axle, but I did not get to the mini notch. And then I have to finish welding a cross member in the front end. I'll show you that as well. And it's unfortunately rusted up a little bit since the truck's been out of the shop. But there's we just cut the old one out. That was the trans cross member, because originally these trucks mounted on the bell housing. And then we made some plates, and obviously it looks really cruddy at this very second because I didn't get a chance to finish it up before I had to shoot the truck out of the shop. We built a cross member and stuff. So I need to get the transmission out, get all that cleaned up, shaved down and shaped the way it needs to look, and get it looking proper. And then gusset it on the backside. Get some triangle gussets in there and get that all looking right and looking better and something presentable. But that's just to hold the frame together right there. This front cross member and the trans cross member back there are the only ones. And that was a big part of the truck. The truck flexed a lot even without it the way it is. And it's not doing a whole lot now. It's just that plate. So we'll get gusseted from the bottom up into here. And that should be good. So that's on the list. That is on the list of stuff to do. But even though it's only 2 things off the list, getting that rear end moved and getting those front cab mounts made was good progress. Okay, so in conclusion, that is the first, I'm going to call it official video of the page. We're not even sure what we're going to call it yet. I guess you'll know when you click on it. But that is where I'm at on this truck. That's where I'm at, and that's where I'm at up to this point. I don't want to put the motor in it just yet because I don't want it setting out in the weather. You've seen everything up till then on the turbo and all that stuff, and There's still some planning. If the draw through doesn't work quite like we need it to, we'll modify the carburetor that I purchased to be a blow through. I've seen a couple techniques on that. And if that doesn't work, we'll buy a blow through carburetor. So a lot of other things going on in life, a lot of other projects going on. So we're going to keep it cheap, try to keep it fun, and try to keep some things rolling, get us off our butts and get some of our projects on the road. But I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that I'm able to, I hope that we're able to keep content coming. It might be a little while, but you know, hit that like, hit that subscribe, share it, whatever, and show your friends. Thanks.